Welcome to New Life Live with host and founder of New Life Ministries, Stephen Arterburn. New Life Live is dedicated to transforming lives one at a time thanks to the giving hearts of you, our listeners. Our goal is to provide you with wisdom from God's Word to give you hope and help in life's hardest places. If you have a question you'd like to ask today, our phone lines are open. Call 1-800-229-3000. That number again is 1-800-229-3000. Now here's Steve.
What's up, everybody? Zach Matchett here, filling in for Steve, and so thankful that you've joined us today on New Life. And man, I'm joined today by some awesome people. I'm joined today by Becky Brown. Hi, Becky.
Hi, Zach. I don't think we've worked together before, but I'm so glad you're here.
I'm glad to be here with you too. We are figuring it out remotely. You are in one location, I'm in another, and then we also have Dr. Alice Benton, who's in a third location. I'm so glad you guys have joined us today. Hi, Alice.
Hello, Zach, Becky. Hi, folks listening. So glad to be with you.
Yes, we had a great Easter weekend, a great celebration, and just another reminder. And I was even just kind of thinking about just all the different elements that go into Holy Week and leading into Easter. And I had this thought. I want to hear your guys' thoughts on it. Peter, one of the closest disciples to Jesus, Jesus said, listen, you're going to deny even knowing me 3 times, before you hear the rooster crow. And it just an interesting, how do you receive that kind of news? And I just kind of got caught on this idea of denial. And as a pastor, I've heard a number of times people say to me, look, if God would just reveal himself to me, just show me exactly what I need to know, then I'll be all in, then I'll believe. And I'm always hesitant to kind of respond with what I really think, which is, are you sure about that? Because oftentimes when we're in denial, we're the last one to notice it. And so I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts. Alice, we could start with you. Of how do we overcome denial, especially when it comes to even the gravest sins of our lives? How can everybody else see it except for us, actually?
Well, we might even scoff at Peter of how could he? He was one of Jesus' best friends. I probably wouldn't if I were in his shoes. But I think that denial is part of our broken human condition. And you're right, we are blind to our own denial. And it's such an issue we deal with in mental health, because although we think denial saves us from having to face the ugliness, from having to admit that we know Jesus, it actually burdens us, and it leaves us with a burden too great to bear on our own. I think it's usually driven out of fear of facing reality, and pride, because I want to be better, look better, come off better than I really am. But God's solution is the mental health solution, because when we give him permission to open our eyes to how limited we truly are, how frightened we really are, that's when he comes in and he shoulders the burden with us.
Absolutely. No, I agree. And let me clarify. I mean, sometimes when I say the last one to see it, I guess I also mean the implications of it. Maybe at times we kind of understand we have an issue or a problem, but we've not yet to recognize the weight of it, necessarily. So it probably is a bit of a both and. Becky, what do you think? How would you encourage somebody to maybe either know somebody who's in denial about what's really going on and how they can overcome that?
I deny knowing anyone in denial. That's all I have to say about that.
Do you now?
But here, I just read a devotional this week, Zach. It's funny that you're talking about this. And the devotional was about this incident, and the headline was "Follow Jesus Closer." Because here you have Peter, who was one of his right-hand men. He built the church on Peter. And so if he is susceptible to falling to denial, and in kind of what you were just saying, Alice, I think fear will cause us to stay in denial. We're afraid of what we don't know or what might happen. I also think shame is part of it, which kind of sounds weird, because why would Peter feel shame? But, there was a risk in identifying with Christ. And so taking that risk, it really is, it's still happening today, but the antidote is to follow Jesus closer, to find out more about how you can be more like him, closer to him, and it'll give you the strength to overcome denial one day at a time.
Oh, yes, and that's the same for all of us. And I think, gosh, if you feel like you're listening today and you're like, I think this may be an issue in my life, a lot of people have been pointing it out, and you're just not quite sure, I think sometimes just confessing the possibility that there might be an issue is sometimes the biggest step. But I think about, too, the disciples saying, surely you don't mean me, Lord, when he said that they were going to be betrayed. And there is this kind of sense of like, there's going to be a bit of aloofness in us. And so anyway, if you want to get some help today, please call us 1-800-229-3000. We would love to take your calls and help you out in any way we can today.
It had become very apparent that some of the things I was involved with were taking over my life.
In today's world, men are barraged with inappropriate content and images all day, every day. Some say that certain behaviors are just no big deal. It's just part of being a guy. But it's simply not true. It's a battleground for every man, and the opportunities to fail are everywhere. New Life's Every Man's Battle Workshop can help.
After 7 years, just one weekend, I completely changed man.
For over 20 years, New Life Ministries has been helping men regain their integrity and purity through their one-of-a-kind Every Man's Battle Workshop.
He said, I think this is something that every man should go to. Married, dating, it was definitely life-changing.
Now the workshop is coming to Orange County, California, May 13th to the 15th. Don't wait for him to call. To find out more, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE or go to newlife.com. 1-800-NEWLIFE. To find out more information about New Life or to order any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Now back to New Life Live.
Glad you guys are joining us today. Zach Matchett sitting in for Steve Arterburn. I'm here with Becky Brown and Dr. Alice Benton. We're going to get to your calls today. You can reach us 1-800-229-3000. But I want to send you a reminder. Friday is the deadline to receive $100 off your registration to our Transforming Grief online workshop. Those who are grieving share the common intense feelings of shock. Denial is certainly one of those things. Panic, anger, guilt, sadness, and we just think that this online workshop will help you kind of process those feelings, give you an outlet to really work through the situations in your life that have caused you grief. And man, don't go through grief alone. Find other people in community that can help you to do that. So if you want more information on that, you can register or get more info at newlife.com. Wanted to make sure that we sent that your way. We're going to take our first call. We actually have Lynn on the line. Lynn is calling out. She actually listened to us on KKLA, and we want to welcome her to New Life Live. Hi, Lynn. How can we help you today?
Good morning. How are you?
So good. Thanks for calling, and we'd love to listen to you.
Great. Okay. I had a really bad childhood, and it really tormented me. I'm now 59, and I guess I've made it. I think I've made it this far through the grace of God, because I was raped by one of my brothers.
Oh my
got
gosh.
pregnant and took me to have an abortion. But I also tried to take my life. And I come from a family of 13, and not one person, I was 16, did come to the hospital to see me. So my life has been really chaotic for so many years, and I made it this far, I think, through the grace of God. But I'm still emotional. And now I'm eating out of emotions. I mean, my whole life has been a tornado. I've only kept it together because of my relationship with Christ, but I don't want to get big and fat and be miserable, because I see that could happen. And right now I'm like 15 pounds overweight. I'm just trying to stop the process of what happened to me as a child. How do I do that?
Well, first of all, before we give you any sort of insight or advice, thank you for calling, and thank you for admitting and confessing just all that's happened to you. We're so sorry for just the things that have taken place growing up. I'll throw it to Becky first. I mean, there's a lot here to unpack, and it's manifesting itself in the present, Becky, through eating. How would you help Lynn today?
Well, Lynn, I first want to find out, what have you done up to this point? And I am celebrating with you that you've made it this far, and so you've obviously got some skill set in place to help you. But I wonder, have you gone to a counselor? Have you been in a group, read books? What have you done so far?
I've gone to a few counselors. The first counselor I went to from a church, he told me, you have so much that I can't, he told me he couldn't help me. So he referred me to someone else.
That's
and
good.
I've gone back and forth to a couple people, and honestly, I started feeling like I was just another paycheck maybe. No one really helped me. I did go to a psychologist that I talked to for a while. Oh, go ahead.
Good.
Were you going to say something?
No, I was just going to say that's good. No, go ahead. I just, I think it's important to find out what you've done to this point and, want to encourage you. If it hasn't worked, what I say all the time is that you have to keep pressing in to find someone that's going to be able to help you, because you can't do this by yourself, Lynn. And, you've got some new...
You're right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And we can help you find somebody, too. We can...
I've tried calling, and it's expensive. So I'll try again, but I've gone to 3 counselors in a lifetime, and I have talked to a life coach before. There's just so much. If I don't stick with one counselor, I probably won't get anywhere. But in my mind, I'm thinking, God, they're not helping me. I keep talking and talking and talking and coming back for visits, and they're not telling me anything. So what do I do?
Yeah, Alice, how would you address even that specifically?
Lynn, it seems like you may need a trauma specialist. And from the reactions you've gotten from a couple of your counselors, they may have been overwhelmed by your story. And just what you've told us so far, which is just part of what you have been through. You've lived through a nightmare. That you have the courage and you've maintained your faith, yes. It's actually unbelievable to me that you've been able to maintain as well as you have. And that emotional eating is the biggest problem you're identifying right now. You must be coping so well considering what you have been through. And so finding...
I haven't been.
Go ahead, you haven't been?
It's been a struggle. My lifetime has been a whole struggle, and I contemplated suicide many times. But I wouldn't do it because I don't see myself doing it. But I just feel like I have nowhere to go or no one to talk to.
It's been a battle to find a clinician who is equipped enough to be able to serve you as you need. And that's a really difficult part of getting connected and staying in the mental health process, because you usually do need to try with several people before you find the right fit. And even that can change from one season to the next. So the fact that you still haven't given up in trying to find the right therapist for you, I applaud that. I've talked with people and personally, I've had to work with multiple different therapists. I've gone to multiple groups, Lynn, to be able to find that right fit for me. And the process itself can be depressing and fatiguing. So to keep up...
It is.
Absolutely.
The last counselor I went to, it was a Christian man, a very nice man. He literally started crying while he was counseling me. He said, I can't believe you've been through this. And that just made me feel so bad, like, he can't help me. He's sitting here crying. How is he going to help me?
You probably will need someone, Lynn, who's very seasoned with trauma, someone who is not emotionally overwhelmed by your story. And there are a couple kinds of therapy that I want you to consider. If you have not yet tried eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, it's called EMDR. We have those kind of clinicians in our network who have heard so many trauma stories that they'll be well equipped to hear yours as well. And not just be a listener, but be an active therapist in guiding you through what to do. Because you're right, just being heard is necessary, but it's not sufficient. There's a secondary form of therapy, which is called EFT, emotionally focused therapy, and it's more directive. There are clinicians who are great at listening, and everybody needs that. But we also need a clinician who will be taking action, who will be working with us in the therapy session, and even giving action steps outside of the therapy session. And we can help you find that right fit within our network of counselors.
Yeah. Becky, do you have anything you want to add to what Alice shared?
I want to just encourage you, Lynn, that you're not too much, that there is help out there. And so when you go to this next counselor, because there will be a next counselor, I want you to be able to say to that person, in the past, I've been too much for the counselors, and I need to have confidence that you can help me. And to know that if this person can't, there will be somebody. And just like Alice said, we have people that are seasoned, who are trauma trained, and have heard really difficult things and can handle what your story is. And it's very important for you to get that out. So this next season of your life will be the best yet. And I believe it can happen.
And Lynn, one more piece to think about. With such heavy trauma, you'll probably need a 3-part approach. An individual therapist, an ongoing group of women with whom you're connected on a weekly basis, and perhaps medication for depression, for anxiety. I imagine there's post-traumatic stress disorder symptoms that you struggle with. And that combination, that 3-part combination, will help you with the emotional eating and the other things that you've been struggling with, the thoughts of suicide, the suicidal attempts. Get all 3 of those ingredients to receive the treatment that you need.
Yeah, and I would say, too, I mean, just, again, thank you, Lynn, for calling and reaching out to us. And so many times when we find ourselves in these just situations that feel like they're gripping us and we just can't find a way out, is to just, by the grace of God, just develop, kind of some spiritual grit, not like a white knuckling, you're just going to get enough willpower, but to actually, yes, you've hit some roadblocks here, but don't allow that to prohibit the continued journey of healing. And I think it'd be I don't know if you guys have a particular resource we could maybe send to Lynn that would maybe help on this particular issue, but just continuing to work those steps that you gave her. I think too, like just developing that resolve spiritually is such an important thing for us, especially when we feel so defeated. And so I don't know if either of you have a resource that you might recommend.
Maybe healing is a choice.
That's
I think
what I
that
was
might
thinking,
be a
Becky.
Good,
Yep.
There you go. See?
Okay. Okay. Well, Lynn, we'd love to send you a copy of that. Thanks again so much for calling today. We're going to go now to Gloria. Gloria is listening to us in WTLN in Florida, and she's reaching out to us. Hi, Gloria. Welcome to New Life. How can we help you today?
Hi. First of all, can you hear me clearly?
Yes, we can. Loud and clear.
Okay. Fantastic. Well, I just want to thank you guys for this ministry and for the help that you're offering to all of us. Thank you so much ahead of time. The reason I'm calling is because I have a son. He's an adult now. And for 4 years, he moved out from my home, and he doesn't want to have any type of relationship with me. He has never called me, nor on my birthday or Mother's Day, nothing. And he lives here in the same area. So I would like to know. And then he's holding a grudge. I don't know why he's so angry at me. And the family would like us to sit down and for him to put in words why he is so angry at me. But I don't even know his telephone. He cut off the telephone and everything from social media. So I don't want to find him, because if he doesn't want to connect, but then I don't think it would be wise for me to try to connect. I don't know what to do, so I would like to know if you guys can help me with that.
Gloria, who are the other family members that are urging you two to sit down and talk?
Okay, I have one sister, one older sister, and she has one daughter, my niece. So my sister has a daughter, and I have the boy. That's basically my closest family. So my sister and my niece would like he and I to sit down and talk, and for him to tell me why he is so angry.
And Gloria, what are 1 or 2 of the family difficulties that you and your son went through, and the father of your son, just 1 or 2 of the tough things in your life?
Well, I raised him by myself. He was raised without his father, and I understand he needed that male figure in his life. But there are many other mothers, single mothers, that have raised their children, and they are not going through the same thing. So I do not understand.
That's good that you know that affected him to not have his father, even if it was out of your hands, whether or not his father was in his life. That's good to identify. And then between the 2 of you, you and your son, what is one area in which you had conflict when you were speaking in the past?
Well, we were speaking. Well, okay, he was staying with me while he was going to college, and it was he would stay during the day. He was out, and then he would come back like at 3:00 in the morning, and then he would sleep until 12 or 1, and then he would get ready and leave. He was not communicating with me. And when he graduated, I spoke with him, and I said to him that I needed him to cooperate financially, and we needed to sit down and talk. But he was not doing anything in the house. He was not buying his food. He was not cleaning his room. He was not helping in any. The only thing he did was putting up, pushing a button for the dishwasher, and then put the dishes in the cup, and that's it.
Gloria, was that a change for him, or was that not unusual behavior for your son going back through the years?
That was he was independent, and then he was living with me, and then he was independent again, and he was living with me. So, but
something so back and forth there.
Exactly, but he was helping, but not substantially. But because he was in school, I would say that's fine because he's focusing in school.
Right.
So,
well, Gloria, stay on the line. I want to hear what Becky thinks about this. Stay on the line. We'll be right back after this.
Hi, this is Steve Arterburn from New Life Live, and Chris Williams and I are doing the Emotional Freedom Workshop. I don't know of anybody that wouldn't benefit from emotional freedom. We're all bound or stuck or struggling in some area. What are we going to do there, Chris?
Just really help people get clarity around the places where they're stuck in their life. They sort of circle the same mountain of disappointment over and over and over again. You're going to be able to see that mountain clearly and get to a new place of what we call emotional freedom, which is simply I can feel in the world, build a relationship to it, and know what to do with my experiences.
The New Life Emotional Freedom Online Workshop is Saturday, April 30th. Steve Arterburn, Chris Williams, and Dr. Jackie McHarris will present information on trauma, depression, codependency, and more. And small group leaders will help you process the information you learn. Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433 or register online at newlife.com.
I was really living a very anxiety-filled life. I turned on New Life, and the topic that day was about anxiety. And just by listening, I got relief.
You can help New Life stay on the air by joining Club New Life today. When you sign up to support us monthly through Club New Life, we'll send you the new member thank you gift of the Life Recovery Bible personal size, the 1-year Life Recovery Prayer Devotional, the New Life Journal, a New Life pen and highlighter, and a New Life zipper tote to hold it all. Plus, there are ongoing benefits like access to the Club New Life video library, the monthly Club New Life CD or download, quarterly resources, free shipping on purchased resources, and discounts on workshops. Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433. Support Club New Life, and together we can help hurting people find help and hope in life's hardest places. Call 1-800-639-5433 to join Club New Life today. We'd love to hear from you. If you have a question or a comment, call toll-free 1-800-229-3000. Now back to New Life Live.
Thanks again for joining us, New Life Live today. Zach Matchett filling in for Steve Arterburn. I'm joined by Dr. Alice Benton and Becky Brown. We've got Gloria on the line talking about maybe just a disconnect in her relationship with her adult son. Becky, I want to give you an opportunity to respond to Gloria and what she shared with us before the break.
Yeah, thank you, Zach. You know, it's so hard to manage our adult relationships with our sons and daughters. And Gloria, I think this is a situation where you have to do a reset, meaning that you need to start where you are now. And the first step would be just to find out how to get in touch with him, whether it's an email or a phone number, or if you know where he works or something like that, and just invite him to have coffee. And just start slow, because it sounds like in the past there's been lots of back and forth. Also, you're in a new stage with him, and he is, separated. I had one question though: is he using drugs or alcohol at all, Gloria?
No, he hasn't. No.
Okay, so I mean, can you see where if you just start fresh, as opposed to try and meet with him to, heal over all the stuff, it might be a little bit too intimidating at first, because in order for you to have a good relationship with him, you got to find out, just that connection again. And I just think that would be the next step. Is there a way for you to get in touch with him?
No, and one of the times that he left the house and he was this happened, he was younger. That's what I did, and then eventually he came back to the house because he was living in a very poor conditions. And I said, "You're not used to this. Move to the house." Well, and after meeting briefly several times, then he moved to the house. But now it's like he is portraying that he's taking care of me, that he has taken care of me basically all his life, when it's not true. So I just don't understand what world he's living in. His perception about me is completely different.
Right, but here's the thing, Gloria. Because his dad was not in the picture, and because he was the only male in the house, he may be thinking that he is responsible. Now, that's not what was true, but he may be taking that on as his truth. And so, the way forward is really, it sounds like he's got some attachment challenges, because to just leave without any word is troubling. But I really think that if you can make some connection with him and then begin and say, I just want to start over. I don't want to go back and try to figure out what went wrong. I really want to know you, and I want you in my life, not to be a burden, but to connect. I want to be part of your life, and just see where that can go.
And Gloria, have you seen a counselor, or are you a part of some sort of a group where you can kind of process what's been going on with you and your son?
I am part of a support group, but in that group I am addressing other issues because there's more that I'm going through right now about my home and different things I need to sell my home, etc. So that aspect of it that has nothing to do with him I'm addressing that with a group, and counselors. But as far as my situation with him, no, it is not being addressed.
Okay. Well, and the reason I ask that is because I find that as parents, we go so far to try to figure out what's going on with our kids and what may be leading to this severing of a relationship or this emotional disconnect. And oftentimes we tend to neglect, okay, what is the part that I can play in owning up to where I've fallen short, or what can I do to mend the relationship, or what can I do in my own personal life to seek healing? And so those are some things that I would encourage you to do. Alice, I'll let you have the final word here, just as either a final word or a resource maybe we can give to Gloria to kind of get her pointed in the right direction.
Gloria, I want to praise you because you are ready for progress and ready to jump in. I saw it in this call. You started off with, I don't know why he's upset with me. I don't know why he's not communicating with me. But you're quickly able to identify, well, I raised him alone. His father wasn't in the picture. You're able to see some of the factors that have likely added to your son's pain and his behavior. I would guess there's some selfishness on his part, some immaturity. We started the show off with denial, probably some denial about what a hardworking, self-sacrificing single parent you have been to your son. So Gloria, even though I also agree with Becky's advice that if we can get access to our children, it tends to be better to start off on a lighter level, but be prepared for the deeper situation by identifying what it might be about you that also added to your son's struggle. I'm an avoider, Gloria, and I'm a people pleaser, and that can really add to my family's conflict, my family's struggle. And when we can come to a conversation ready to admit, this is my part, and this is what I know made our life difficult, so I can understand why you might have backed away, but I want to know more. Then we tend to open up doors rather than closing them in relationship.
Yeah, and one of the things that I noticed that she said, and again, I can only speculate or presume, and I don't want to do that too much, but just the statement that the group that I'm a part of has nothing to do with our relationship, and just maybe opening yourself up to maybe there is some interrelatedness, or maybe there is some overlap in some of the things you're going through personally, and how that may affect even the parenting, or even the difference in parenting to child relationship. And as I'm listening to that, I think to myself, parenting is not for the faint of heart. In fact, if you are a parent or a grandparent or a parent figure, we salute you today. Somebody said, parenting a child is God's sneaky way to get us sanctified. And so I know that it is a challenge. And so, again, if you find yourself, whether it's a struggle with your kids, struggle in your marriage and your life in any way, please do not hesitate to reach out to us. You can reach us 1-800-229-3000. We'd love to send you a resource, Gloria, to get you pointed in the right direction. And I hope that you guys...
Let's send her Jim Burns' book, Zach.
That's great. What's the
Doing
title?
Life with Your Adult Children. Doing Life with Your Adult Children. Keep
That's
your mouth
great.
shut and the welcome mat open or out.
That's great. We'll send that
Good
to you,
instruction.
Gloria. Thanks for being here with us today. We'll be right back.
For most of my life, I've been dealing with an opiate addiction.
Why is opioid addiction quickly becoming one of our nation's biggest killers? Maybe it's because it isn't only those who are addicted who are in denial.
We did what I see so many parents do, is it can't be an addiction. There's something medically wrong.
It's impossible to solve a problem when you don't know what you're up against, and families will try to find any explanation except the one that will put them on the right path.
Alcoholism and drug addiction is a family disease. It doesn't affect just the individual.
If someone you love is abusing painkillers, know what you're up against. It's time to admit its addiction and seek treatment. Call us today at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. We have partner treatment centers around the country. Call 1-800-639-5433 or visit us online at newlife.com.
We just made a decision. We will do whatever it takes.
1-800-NEW-LIFE.
Hi, this is Steve Arterburn, and for 30 years, New Life has been the most trusted name in Christian counseling.
I'm an addict, and I'm trying to get God in my life again. You seem to be able to get to the crux of a problem quickly.
Our Christ-centered treatment programs can help you break free to embrace all that God has for you and your family.
I just want to thank you guys for bringing me to a relationship with Jesus.
There really is help for marital problems, depression, addictions, panic attacks, and feelings of hopelessness.
I came back with so many tools to help me prepare myself to fight this struggle and this battle that I have every day.
You can start living again today, living the life God intended for you. Help is available at 1-800-NEW-LIFE.
They did care, and they did follow up very lovingly, and it made all the difference in my life.
Call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Someone who cares is waiting at the other end of the phone. God can open the door to a better tomorrow right now. Just call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. 1-800-639-5433.
We're glad you joined us for New Life Live. To be a part of the program, call 1-800-229-3000. Now back to New Life Live.
Thanks again for hanging out with us today on New Life Live. We're taking your calls today, and the next caller we have is Ray calling from California. She's actually watching us on YouTube, and so we're going to go to that call. Hello, Ray. How can we help you?
Hey, I had a question. My daughter is 16 years old, and she didn't get a cell phone until she was 16. They had iPads and stuff, but we have let her make decisions now about her sports, and she's choosing not to do sports this year. And so she spends an exorbitant amount of time on her cell phone. We keep putting apps on her phone. My husband's been trying to put different apps like the Circle and stuff. I don't know how she's getting around it, but she's staying on it. We make her plug it in at 9:30 every night next to my husband's bed, but then she's sneaking other technology in her room. She is talking to a boy that she says that she'll never date, and my husband says when they do, he gets $20. But I don't know what, at this point, with her being almost 17 years old, going into her senior year, like what is a fair rule around the phone, around technology, around her having it, not having it? You know,
yeah.
Ray,
Go ahead, Alice.
I'm curious, why is it still her phone, although she's already displaying disrespect and disobedience for your rules?
Well, she gets it taken away whenever we figure out that that is something that's happening. But, yeah, probably we need to be more stronger boundaries around that. We are very strong around the bedtime boundaries, but the thing is when we've taken it before, friends at school loan her a phone to log into her Snapchat or whatever. And so, you know, at a certain point, the way I see it is at a certain point, you can have boundaries and you can have rules, but if they're going to do something, they're going to do it. And,
you know,
we may or may not know.
That's true, Ray. I think here's the challenge. You are getting ready to launch her. And so what you've tried isn't working. And I wonder what kind of conversations, if the conversations are always heated and crisis-centered, you're not making progress in this area. it's similar to.
They're not.
Right. They're not crisis
Which probably
centered.
has been a problem. We should have come down harder. No.
Well, no,
ahead, sorry.
literally, she's at an age where you're trying to equip her with the ability to make good decisions. And so if you haven't had a conversation where you say, okay, we have put the boundaries, we've taken the phone, you find another way. And so let's talk about what this is about. What do we not understand that, that you're continuing in this pattern? We need to know. We need to have a successful way of, managing technology, because guess what? She's doing it whether it's in your house or not. But also to keep her in reality, that this is, we're aware that you're not using this the way that we want you to. So what gives? What are we supposed to do at this point? Because at some point she's going to, it's going to be more about the punishment than it is about equipping her to make really good decisions.
Right, and what else could it be revealing?
That's
right. And what else could it be revealing? I mean, the fact that you seem to suggest that she's finding other ways around it, but that's kind of in hiding. So kind of going about whether you're sneaking in or finding, and now the challenge is, of course, that so much of the technology is integrated. So you get another device and you just put your log in, and it's almost like you have your own device again. And so it's just, I know the unique challenges of it, and that can make us feel, as parent figures, a little bit like, oh my gosh, we put all these checks and balances into place and it's still having access. But it sounds like there's other deeper issues about kind of going behind your guys' back. And Alice, I might wonder, how do you kind of reinforce either new boundaries or just kind of put a line in the sand in terms of communicating with a child that is old enough to be getting some independence, but at the same time you need to launch her out well with the appropriate boundaries?
Well, Ray, I want to acknowledge that you and your husband are working very hard to try to do this right. And you are up against what's practically an insurmountable problem. You're certainly not alone in what you're going through. Most kids say they can't even go for a full day without their phone. And most kids are on their phone more than 8 hours a day. I don't even know how they find that kind of time, but they are. So you're working it, and you're working hard with a very difficult problem. I do think it's important to look at what underlying emotional struggles might be going on with your daughter. It's surprising that she stepped so far away from sports. It's not surprising she's going to digital distraction. But I would wonder, from a therapeutic standpoint, if she's using digital distraction to soothe a struggle and a pain that might be going on the inside. I'd wonder if something happened to her in her sporting events. I wonder if there was an emotional injury that occurred, because of which perhaps she's kind of hiding in her phone these days. So I would suggest that you require, first invite, but if necessary require, that she attend some family therapy sessions, so that you can look at what might be underneath. What might she be coping with by using her phone to such an extent? And to also address that
that was the call.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
What did you say?
That was the call I almost made yesterday. The question yesterday was going to be, how do we launch her at this point? I've been emotionally dishonest my whole life. I've just been learning the last couple of years in recovery how to feel and express emotions. So she's not had that. I've called you guys before. She was in a sport that she only did for her dad, and this is the first time that in her life that she's been allowed to make the decision, and she made the decision with her counselor yesterday to not do the sport. And so now we're just in this period where we know the phone is a major emotional social outlet for her. And it has been because of our emotional dysfunction that she has emotional dysfunction. And I do insist that she's in counseling. So we had to wait for a while, but she's got a counselor now that she likes. So now it's just a matter of what are healthy boundaries? What's a good, is there some kind of an app or something that she can't get around on her phone?
There are
time limits, because
I've heard many stories of people getting around some of these electronic boundary setting systems. So I want to recommend that you consider Pinwheel or a Gab phone.
Pinwheel?
Yes, Pinwheel,
okay.
Which has stronger parental controls, and it simplifies the phone much more than she'll like. Okay. But until she can prove that she is willing to be upfront and honest and obedient and respectful, I don't think she's prepared to have her own phone yet. So I would reword it that there's a parental phone that she can have access to after she proves over a period of time that she's willing to talk through some of these things, and that you get the feedback from the counselor who gives approval or not. But also, you did something beautiful, Ray. Also adding in, it's not that she's the problem, it's that there's a family problem going on, and there's been a parental emotional ignorance that you identified so humbly. So rather than it being just her counseling, moving it into family counseling, because we parents are imperfect, and we need to look at this as a family problem that needs to be addressed rather than just a 16-year-old problem.
That's right, and technology often the great revealer of what the relationship behind it. So we can figure out ways to not circumvent the technology, but I'd rather help you how to not circumvent the relationship and the emotional disconnectedness that you're feeling. And so, Ray, thanks again for calling us. We'll get you a resource here. I want to get to Larry. Larry's joining us today. Larry Sonnenberg, what do you have for us today, Larry?
Well, just a reminder about Emotional Freedom Workshop coming up, and that is on the 30th. It is a one-day Zoom call. It'll last all day, but you don't have to go to a hotel. You don't have to drive for miles, fly a car. It's an easy thing. We've lowered the bar in terms of hurdles. And I want to suggest that you hear this testimony from a gentleman who went to one of our last ones. I've learned that we were not meant to isolate ourselves because God created us to be connected to Him and others. The unhealthy strategies I've developed to avoid pain just kept me stuck. Trusting God and others builds characters and brings wholeness. It's time to face reality instead of faking that all is well. I believe this weekend is the first step of a journey into a new life. And so, folks, consider it, no matter what you're dealing with. It might be anger, it might be grief, it might be depression, whatever. There's a myriad of things that you might be stuck in. And I just want to encourage you to consider the workshop. And you'll be in a small group. You're going to hear from people and listen to what they're dealing with and the struggles that they have. And you can share openly. It's a safe group. So I encourage you to do that. And at the same time, I want to encourage you who are listening to make a gift to New Life, to help us continue these things. We're adding workshops. We're working on some things that we haven't been able to announce public yet that might be really beneficial to helping more people learning about new life and life in Christ. So help us if you can, make a gift. I think we're still doing this book, the Heart Handbook, when you make a gift of any kind. And we'd love if you would do it and consider joining Club New Life. And now that I've left you no time, Zach, I'll give it back to you.
No, you're fine. Well, circles are better than roads. That's how we grow. We grow in community and grow in sharing our burdens with one another. And so please take advantage of some of these resources and workshops. We'll send you, Ray, we'll send you a resource. We'll talk about it when we get back from break.
My son went to prison when he was 19 years of age, and he died. And he's my only child. I blame myself every day that I failed as a mother.
Are you overwhelmed by the intense feelings of grief? You're not alone.
We do think that we can handle all the stuff because it just kind of accumulates over time. And you've had repeated losses.
The New Life Transforming Grief online workshop is Saturday, May 7th. You'll get tools to help you understand and process your grief and a community to travel through the valley with you. Let New Life help you process your loss, begin a journey of acceptance, and learn how to extend the comfort you've received to help others grieve and rebuild their lives too. To register or to find out more, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE, 1-800-639-5433, or online at newlife.com. 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Chris Williams on coaching.
Oftentimes I get asked, what is the difference between therapy and coaching? The biggest difference between the two is that a therapist is going to be looking for a diagnosable mental health condition, whereas a coach is going to look at a particular issue and help a person work through that.
If you need a coach, call New Life today and ask about the New Life Coaching Network. Our coaches have been trained and screened with the same intensive process we use for our network counselors.
If you're looking at an issue in your life that you just kind of want to change, whether it be your weight or leadership or other areas of behavioral patterns, check out coaching. There can be some really, really helpful things for you.
Take control of your life and take action to achieve your goals. Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433 and talk to us about getting a new life coach. 1-800-NEW-LIFE. To find out more information about New Life or to order any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Now back to New Life Live.
Thanks again for joining us today here on New Life Live. We've been taking your calls, 1-800-229-3000. We have time for one more, but before I get to that, Ray, who's was just sharing just about some issues with technology and kids and students and how to figure out boundaries with those, and it's just certainly a issue of the day that we need to not shy away from, but lean into, press into. But we were talking on the break, and Ray, we'd love to send you How to Love Your Kids by Mylan and Kay Yurkovich. I don't know if you got either of you ladies have a kind of a little tidbit to throw in there why we think that might be a helpful resource for her.
Because it teaches parents how to provide emotional comfort to their children, which is generally the real root under digital addictive behavior.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love
absolutely.
what you said, Alice, though, about digital distraction, which is something even adults are dealing with. And the more you can understand your kids as you're raising them, you can understand those things that will attract them. And sometimes it's technology, and other times it's other things. But, just to get a closer connection, I think How We Love Our Kids is a great book.
Absolutely. Well, Becky, you just made a point there about how interesting it is. I think a lot of us kind of go, man, kids are just so addicted to their phones these days. They just can't take their eyes off of it. And I almost wonder if we're a little more introspective about that. And we go, well, maybe the reason they're becoming, a phone addict is because they're being raised by one. So, like, what kind of boundaries are we putting in our own life, with our own phones? Yep. Are we showing and modeling a disconnectedness that inadvertently is communicating to the students, well, that's just, or kids, well, this is just a way for us to kind of stay connected. So it's good. I wish we could spend more time on that, but it's certainly a resource that we think can help you, Ray. So we're going to go to Victor here, who's calling us. He's listened to us at WPMH, and so we're going to go to him now. Victor, thanks so much for joining us on New Life Live today. How can we help you?
Hey, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. How can we help?
And, thank you. I just want to say that I felt called to call the station last night, and I had called a bit late, but I'm glad that I was able to tune in today. The help that I need is my wife and I, we were just like everyone else, we were spiraled into the pandemic right around a very pivotal point in our life. We just got married, we just had our first child, and we relocated from New Jersey to Virginia. So I felt like keeping up with life and just making ends meet. We kind of got disconnected, and we're not sure if we're still if we still want to if we're right for each other, but we definitely do want to work on it for not only ourselves but to really have the best possible outcome. And just for some context, besides what I said earlier, I was just baptized on Sunday, last Sunday, not Easter, but the Sunday before. Yeah, I'm newfound Christian. And
welcome to the family, Victor. Glad to have you.
Thank you so much. I really feel reborn again, and I just really want to do everything that I can in answering the call that Christ is calling me to be a better father, to be a better husband, and to be a better leader in my community. And I just really want some guidance into what action my wife and I can take to exhaust every means. That way we can be better parents, be better partners, and just move forward into the purpose that Christ is calling us to.
Yeah, and I appreciate you calling today. And I'm just going to throw in just a real quick thing that I want to encourage you with. It's that following Jesus Christ is the most important decision that you could possibly make, Victor. And I believe that and it's never too late to start putting a new foundation in for your marriage and just all the things that you just mentioned. I would just simply say that I think that you can get a fresh start, or at least push towards a healthier relationship, just by simply prioritizing that your relationship with Christ personally, but also the relationship that your spouse has with Christ, and just making that the absolute priority of your marriage. And I think of it like a stool. You know, you could make a stool out of the finest wood, the sturdiest of wood, and if it only has 2 legs, that stool's falling over every time. And so even if you guys are at your absolute best, just the 2 of you, you still are going to fall over. You need a 3rd leg of the stool. And I would argue with anybody that you need to have some sort of linchpin with your relationship and your family, and I believe that you've put it in the right place with Jesus Christ, because even when you're not at your best, he always is. And even when you're at your best, you still desperately need him. And so pushing each other towards holiness, towards growth, and not just in your own life, but to push the others as well. So I just take that as an encouragement, as a challenge. But Becky, I'll throw it to you real quick. Just what are some little things that we can share? I mean, certainly starting the relationship in the pandemic and all the complications of that, and starting this and now redirecting and with the relationship with Christ, what are some things that Victor can do to put that into place?
Right. Well, so Victor, here's a news flash for you. We are married to many different people throughout our marriage. I've been married 38 years, and my husband and I, when we first started out, you know, we were completely different people than we are now. And that's a good news. And what I love in this new chapter of your life where you have made this decision to follow Christ, guess what? That means that there's going to be change, and it's hopeful. And so the biggest decision that you can make right now is to not quit. You mentioned disconnection, and many couples make the decision based on a disconnected feeling. And so it needs to be rather a flag that says, hey, we need help. And so, of course, like what we always say, I would get with a counselor, the 2 of you, and begin to heal that disconnection. But also recognize you have had a big upheaval. You don't have a good group around you. So those are just some little things that I would suggest. We also are going to be doing a intimacy and marriage workshop there in the DC area in July, and that would be a great opportunity for you guys to come and reconnect. But I think those are some just first steps of getting help, recognizing that things are going to change, but that doesn't mean it's a bad thing.
Absolutely. Becky, when you were sharing that, there's a quote I was reminded of Lewis Smedes years ago. I think he's been married many, many years. He said, my wife's been married to 5 different men, and they've all been me. Of course, always got a big chuckle, because everybody's like, oh, my goodness, 5 different men, But the reality is that it does change you, and so there is an evolution there, too. Alice, what do you want to jump in with here?
Victor, I would suggest that you prayerfully evaluate what your part in the drifting was and whether or not there was both disconnection but perhaps more specific injury that would lead you to consider separation or divorce. Already understandable given the difficulty of the circumstances, but usually there is something else in the equation because we're imperfect and we have done something to add to the hurt, to add to the harm. I also want you to suggest to you and your wife that you consider taking divorce off the table as an option. Because when we have that out, it looks easier during the most troubling times that we go through. And yet the problems and pain that divorce cause are practically never ending. And so especially as a newborn Christian, removing divorce as an option, certainly because God's ideal for us is that we'll work through the problems. There are exceptions. Of course there are exceptions. But take it off the table. Commit to couples therapy, to figuring out what other injuries have been added to the disconnection.
Yeah. And Victor, I would simply add, and it's when you're in a season where you're feeling disconnected, the tendency, I think, for at least most of us, is to focus on the incompatibility or the compatibility of what we're longing for. It's just like we just seem to be kind of missing one another. It seems like we're not quite connecting. And I almost would rather, when we enter into a marriage relationship, it's a covenant. It's supposed to represent Jesus Christ's relationship with us, and that he is consistently faithful to us. We're in a covenant relationship. And so to some degree, it may feel like, but it would be much nicer if we were more compatible and we were seeing more eye to eye. The covenant is the more important thing to be focusing on now, because that will sustain you through seasons where you feel like it or you don't feel like it. And so be encouraged today, Victor, and for all those that are finding themselves in a struggling place, we pray that you find help that you need. Again, if you found this episode helpful, share it on YouTube or social media. You can also visit the website, newlife.com. Thanks again for joining us today. Becky and Alice, you guys are awesome. Thanks for hanging out with me today.
Thanks for listening. We hope this program has helped you by giving you insights for handling the challenges you face in your life. We want you to know that we're here for you, but But you also need to know that New Life Live is a listener-supported ministry. To make your donation or to get any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433, or write to us at New Life Ministries, P.O. Box 1029, Lake Forest, California, 92609. Please join us again tomorrow for New Life Live.
Hi, thank you for watching New Life Live. You know, New Life Live is a Christian counseling program where we deal with the hard questions about life, relationships, kids, free choice, freedom of will, whatever. It's all right there on New Life Live every day, every weekday, 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. If you want to call into the live broadcast, you can find the schedule on newlife.com or click the social media link right below. You can see every episode of New Life Live on the New Life YouTube channel. Watch it with a friend, watch it later. Be sure to subscribe and hit that bell so you'll never miss another episode. So if you want to listen on the go, download the app. The link is right below. And I hope if you need some information, if you want to get some help, you'll call us at 1-800